Okay, so you agree with it's an open world PvP game, and you should always feel like you're looking over your shoulders.
Any game, really, you know. There's
Yeah,
25,000 people.
to an extent.
Okay.
But like, if you're in Atlantis, say it shouldn't be that like. But if you're in like, Terra somewhere, it should be. It's like okay, I'm
always look
safe.
for the
but
without breaking NDA. How are you
if
feeling
you're
about
like
this game in this current state?
Somewhere else, you're like,
That's where the
okay,
douchey
like
shit
it should
comes
be
out.
sort of okay here, but not always okay.
Sure, and so like a lot of people tend to bring up EVE Online, like there's
I mean,
high sec and null sec and these other security labels for the systems that we're in. I kind of agree with that mentality.
Though, really.
That has been like casually mentioned, I think, in design posts. I feel like before that there's going to be high security areas and less high security areas, and it's also been mentioned that Stanton's like somewhere in between because they
That's why I was.
the planets aren't
Thinking as well.
yeah, like the planets aren't owned by the UEE really, so it's like this weird kind of thing, right? So yeah, it's so I think you kind of agree with me is that yes, space is open, space is dangerous, but you should be able to participate in things like mining, salvaging, some PvE type missions
Lost Ark
where you're not looking over your shoulder
I
necessarily,
thought Lost
like
Ark
on a
is
place like
more of
Terra
it's
maybe,
a
or
fucking dungeon crawler.
more of the main core systems of the UE.
It's like a more realized.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
What do you think Pyro should
but
be
it's
like?
definitely a dungeon
then?
crawler.
I don't know.
I think it should be
Dude, I've been watching Lost Ark for so many years.
like not a
I
high
don't,
sec.
like,
It should be somewhere that
it plays more like Lineage
like you
2,
don't
I think, right? Yeah.
like enter there.
This is like
If
a
you
true
actually
Lineage
have
2
to-
successor.
So like.
This guy's a retard. Get him off the phone.
Explain this, but
Yeah, see, this is like
say if you
totally
like
Lineage 2
have
style.
like an op there, and you absolutely have to like enter there, like that's system.
This is like PoE.
You should have some extra like escorts or something.
Sure.
If
That's
there's
just
any
Maybe he's stuttering.
issues.
Sure. Do you want to touch on that a little bit? That's a very common kind of gatekeeping and I think pretty toxic comment made by PvPers occasionally.
Yeah, I
just
wanna fucking
bring
play this. I've been following this.
just bring
forever.
friends
Supposedly
then.
you could get in on it if you had a
Just bring friends.
or something.
Like
so
I've said that a few times. I'm not
But
gonna. Like I've said that a few times
that's
in the
not-
past.
I'm sure you've
Yeah.
already tried
Like,
that, haven't you?
It's like it. Like it seems toxic, but it's also the right thing to like do to have extra friends. But it's kind of
it's not the answer for every scenario.
yeah. It's not the answer for every situation, but it's
Exactly.
just
But that's tends to be the answer for every scenario for them is what I tend to hear. Doc, I'm gonna I'm seeing a couple
What is
comments,
this?
so
Oh,
we're
this
gonna do
is-
the
yeah,
thing that
yeah,
we
it's the
do
Unreal
with you
Engine.
occasionally, so people are more respectful. So I apologize if
It's
you
like
get
the Unreal
embarrassed.
Engine.
But
I'm not
guys,
embarrassed, but I
Is
just
this
don't like
supposed to
to.
drop? Their
I don't
fucking
like
web-
people
their fucking
being
website is not even-
obnoxious, so I'm gonna say it. Doc
Okay, so
has
he
a speech
starts.
impediment, guys, but Doc is brave enough to come on the show every time we have a show
It's
and
fucking
talk about
Korean.
what he feels about the game Star Citizen that he enjoys. Sometimes it might be difficult to understand, but if
Oh, I
you
forgot
just
about
stop
Final Fantasy,
and
yeah.
breathe and listen a little bit,
Remote.
you actually
I
know
started a character,
what's going
but I
on and what he's
never-
saying very
heard
easily.
it's pretty damn
So I
good.
don't like seeing comments in the Twitch chat about people who are brave enough to come on the show and talk about the game, and other people who are just brave enough to hide behind their screen name and say things about people in Twitch chat. Nothing was really disrespectful in Twitch chat, just
Man,
so you
Lost Ark
know,
looks
but
fucking
I just
great.
want to keep it on, like, the comments tend to start there and then get just stupider and stupider and stupider. So we're gonna nip it in the bud right now and just say that. So I apologize, Doc. I know it kind of puts you on the spot, but you know I love you and I want everybody being respectful. So yeah. But yeah, I mean that tends to be the argument from people is like just get escorts. But at the same time, I think we all know that Star Citizen doesn't have very good VoIP. First off, very good systems, right?
That's fair.
Exactly, like very good systems to create scenarios where you can meet up with your friends. I was literally just playing with my friend in a party, and he was constantly getting removed from the VoIP party for some reason. I think it was every time that I requested landing, he got removed from the party. So like there's a lot of problems with the game in general to make that happen, right? Go ahead, Doc.
But
The capsule
in saying
will
that,
leave the station momentarily.
like, I don't think that there should be like sort of like a split between like casuals and like the hardcore, because I'm sort of like in between that, and I'll like stretch into like opposite sides of the spectrum almost.
Yeah, I mean that's the point of the show today. Is that there's with these events, we're quickly creating this rift between the Star Citizen community, between the people who engage in PvP and the people who don't want to. And we have to understand that sometimes it's going to cross over, other times it's not, and we need to keep respecting each other. That's
the whole point.
Yeah, and understanding other people's points of view and how they want to play the game, as well as the developers. And I'm not going to touch on the fucking disaster that happened this week.
Yeah, that was
but
it was rough, but yeah.
They designed a PvE mission. That was it.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they did. And
so I mean, Tony Z touched on it.
Tony Z said that it's not for them, but
But it's not for them either.
Yeah, it's not for them, but it's not for them in the overall sense.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, how do you look at Star Citizen as from the were you listening to the Chris Roberts thing? What did you think about that? Has that always been the way you thought about Star Citizen, or did you think it was this open world free-for-all sandbox that everybody keeps calling it when it just isn't? It's not a sandbox.
Free-for-all. It's not like every man for himself, but there should be some sort of you have to be careful sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's not like every man for himself.
Yeah, you want that. I've said it so many times. You want that feeling of danger.
Yeah, you want that. Yeah, it's like that risk that makes it even more. Yeah.
Yeah, but some people don't.
Yeah, some people don't, and that's what takes away from it, almost.
Yeah. And the big thing that I really wanted to why I wanted to play that video is that video may have been from 2018.
Hi. Welcome to the
but
store.
That has been the discussion topic of Star Citizen from day one. Is 90% NPCs, 10% players. So most of the content that you're going to be engaging with is not PvP. And my hope is, and he really didn't say it, but he kind of said it, is that a system like Pyro would funnel you into it for reasons of making money or something like that, to make a player who wouldn't typically engage in PvP maybe have to look over his shoulder. But if I'm in, I don't know, flying around Hurston, doing some, I don't know, looking for fruit or something ridiculous like that, I hope I wouldn't have to look over my shoulder the whole time.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe I would. I mean, one of the benefits, I saw this in Twitch chat way early in the stream when we were discussing this before we went live with the podcast, was that people said, one of the advantages of Star Citizen here is that it's so big that it's
so big that it's you won't ever be found easily.
Exactly. And I feel like that's probably one of the reasons why Pyro was the next system, is you want PvP, guys?
Big.
Here you go. So let's make the world bigger. Let's make the game place bigger, but then put the PvPers in a place where you can actually create. Actually, like, we don't want to create the separation from a mentality standpoint, but from a where you play, I think CIG is really trying to make that separation.
To, like, head towards that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Like, as we get the next areas to sort of enter and see how that sort of unfolds.
Yeah. The last thing I would want to ask you is, because you said you want to see how it would unfold. How do you see it like, how do you see the transition? I don't think we're going to see Pyro this year. So it's not a discussion topic that, like, Star Citizen's going to change this year, but this is, again, a really long-term view of Star Citizen. If we start having these discussions now, hopefully people will not be so nasty to the other side of their opinion. But what do you see, and how do you see Pyro being implemented initially?
Probably as like a separate system. So like maybe it's just like I don't know, because it's hard to think about, because I'm not like in that like industry. So
because it's like empty, it's weird. So that's the one part that I don't know how they're going to make a change.
Yeah, it's just really
funnel us in there.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how they'll like implement Pyro as a system.
We found some valuable like thing, that's twice the value of Quantanium, but it's only over here, guys. Wink, wink, wink.
And you have to be, Yeah.
And it only sells over here, guys. Wink, wink, wink. And then it's just, you have to funnel people to these things. So, and then I think everybody will be more happy, because you have to remember is that you have piracy, where players actually want to fight over material or space or something, right? There's a profit incentive in piracy. But what we're seeing with Xenothreat is this isn't piracy. This is like gankers, PvPers, people who just want to kill. And that's fine as well, of course. But I think both can probably be found in those systems. So, yeah.
That's...
I don't know, man. It's interesting, but I am getting more and more nervous about, like, the place that the Star Citizen community is going. People are getting nasty. People are getting downright nasty.
Yeah,
and
it's very...
It's not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
Not good at all.
I really hope we can change some minds here. We'll see.
Hopefully.
Yeah, man. Doc, I love you, man. You can go play Eco now. Or were you playing the entire time we were talking? Be honest.
No,
wow.
I wasn't playing.
Wow. I'm not playing either. I have played Eco during podcasts, but never on this podcast. All right, Doc. Have a good one, man.
Yeah. I'll see you later.
Talk to you soon. All right, let's bring in again, always got to preface this, and I might as well do that while I'm bringing up his name here. A former Star Citizen developer. So he's not going to really touch on how things worked for his time there, would be my guess. His name is Jerry. He did the Caterpillar mission as well as the 890 jump mission. That's what he's famous for. All right? But I think he'll probably talk on this from like a very high level, outside of CIG level, and just like a general how game design works. Because I think everybody should be able to enjoy Star Citizen. But a lot of, there was like even a comment earlier about Escape from Tarkov. Like, they're very hyper-focused on the type of game they are, where Star Citizen is not, right? So let's see what he has to say about something like that. Hello, Jerry. How are you?
Hey, man. How's it going?
By the way, Elliot, who is another Star Citizen developer, is saying in chat, which Elliot has to fix all of your missions that you left behind all the
He's
time.
so full of shit. He's so full of shit.
So,
Alright, okay, you're
yeah,
sounding a bit muffled for me, so let me just... Sounds like you're underwater a little bit. You sounded fine on stream, but it's
Oh.
alright. We'll roll with it.
probably wrong mic. I'll switch while you're talking.
Cool. Yeah, there's a few little bits on the Star Citizen stuff I wanted to go over, and then a few general game design aspects as well. Obviously, one of the things you just mentioned there is like people are attacking the Xenothreat PvE mission, and as you say, it isn't piracy; it's just ganking.
Yeah.
I'm curious if yourself or the rest of the Star Citizen community would be having this argument if it was a PvE mission for unlawful players and you had a bounty to go kill them. Because at that point, they're doing their PvE content. Why do you have a right to go kill them if they can't kill you? Like, I know from talking to like Virgil, Moist Noodle, Space Cutlet, there is a clamoring for more like unlawful content in the verse. They want more reasons to do this.
No doubt.
And
but you're
like,
talking to
it's like
people who are pirates, not PvPers.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But like, it seems to be this argument of there's no monetary value for them, so why are they doing this?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, what if they could salvage your ship? Would you still have that complaint?
No, I
Like,
wouldn't.
Exactly. So then it's a case of, is it that big of an issue that they're doing this now, or is it just that the systems aren't there, right? I mean, I joked about it in chat with Elliot. What if you had it so that when an unlawful player, or when 4 unlawful players get to the Xenothreat event, you spawn in some reinforcement security that's part of this, you know, faction that you're supposed to be helping with to fight them off, so you've got some extra stuff. I feel like there seems to be this negative consensus towards PvP players, and I want to try and have their backs a little bit from a standpoint of they still need stuff to do, or they're gonna not want to play the game at all.
Yeah.
And everyone says, oh, wait for pyro, wait for pyro, wait for pyro.
Well,
it's like
it's not coming
the
this year.
PvP.
Like yeah.
It's not. I don't know when pyro's coming.
Yeah.
But it's also the PvP moments are part of what make Star Citizen feel alive and give you this engaging content. It's what helps differentiate between other games, and like green zones have gone from a lot of places, and there's no PvP slider. So when you start placing your homestead down on a planet, are you just expecting that no one's gonna shoot you? No, you need like security, whether it be AI or players, to cover your ass on this kind of stuff. Like, you can't just say I don't want PvP to be there, otherwise it's a completely different experience. Like,
Yes.
it's not Star Citizen if you just have a PvP slider, or if you just add green zones everywhere. Then it isn't the same game that people are buying into.
But nobody's saying that, and I never said that either. So I want to make sure that like what I'm saying is clear, is that there should be some scenarios and situations or places that are green zones or that are PvE safe. Because I feel like if your game is completely open world, PvP is available everywhere,
But as you said,
then it's the same
there's like
scenario.
this toxicity. Yeah, as you said, there's this like toxicity divide though at the minute that's come about from this event.
Yes.
What's the root cause of it? Is really what we need to get down to. Why are people so annoyed? Are they only annoyed because PvP players aren't getting a reward for killing them? In that case,
No.
what if they just had a mission? Then people wouldn't be complaining about it, because it's like, well, I got a counter mission to kill you, so I'm doing my side of the story.
I don't think that's the case, because they're doing it regardless, because they want to, like some people. I'm not speaking for some of the people you mentioned either. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Some people want to just ruin it, and that's okay. That's what some people want to do. But
oh yeah, I get that. And I know,
if
like,
every
obviously the
situation's
team-
able to be ruined, then it will.
Yeah. Someone will find a way, right? Someone will find a way to ruin it all the time. And I know, obviously, that they'll want people to get through the event so they can get feedback for it and balance it. And it's kind of, I guess, just a difficult balance in the state that the game is in at the minute to try and appease everyone. And I think this gets back to the whole point of why can it not just be for everyone, right?
Yeah.
No game
Warzone?
ever can appease anyone. It's impossible.
Yes.
It's not. It can't happen,
I don't think
right?
so.
I was doing some tests on some
What?
content once,
Why not?
and I put out a feedback form to get feedback from some people that were testing
Busy.
it. And someone
Doing?
came back and said this was a 7 out of 10 piece of content. I was like, okay, pretty cool. 4 hours later, that same test was put out again. The same person did the same response and gave it a 5 out of 10. I was like, how in 4 hours has your opinion of this changed so much? He's like, oh, I found an exploit.
Okay.
It's like, you can't appease everyone all the time. Then it's like you're gonna be constantly changing things all the time, forever. Nothing's ever gonna get done. You need to have like you set rules and go from it. I mean, like even games like Red Dead Redemption 2, right, or Dishonored, which is my favorite game. There's so much to do in those worlds, but none of it's perfect. People still find reasons to complain. Like Dishonored, right? I absolutely love. But I ask people why they don't like it, and they're like, "Oh, the sword play is boring." And I'm like, but didn't you get the ability where you freeze time, teleport behind someone, slit their throat, teleport onto this ledge, time unfreezes, you jump off the ledge, stab some guy in the head, he's like, nah, I didn't want to do that, I just wanted to counter people and wave my sword around. And it's like, yeah, it's different cases, right? Different strokes for different folks is what my friend Tom always says. Like,
Sure.
I don't know, I just feel like there is no, I'm yapping.
No. I just want to make sure that, like, what the title and why can't Star Citizen just be for everyone is clear. Is what I mean is from the only reason that it's titled this is because the argument for the mask event was this is not for you, this is a PvP event, and the argument from the same exact people is this is open world PvP. This is for me too. Right? Or this is for me.
There you go. That's a good point. The people should be allowed to cheese the event if they can. If you want to go and harass people at the event, I think that's a valid point. Like, if you want to mow and say
you
people
should look at it the other way
to get their event,
or you should look at it the other way and say,
you can't conga line and I can't grief, basically.
Yeah. Sometimes you can't grief. Sometimes you can't.
But there you go.
Line,
sometimes, and this is the flip-flop thing.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a case-by-case basis. Everything is circumstantial. It's all subjective, and I just don't feel like there's a piece of content out there in the world that is for everyone and ever will be.
I agree with that. I agree with that. But all I'm trying to say is that sometimes you're going to have a PvP only event that you can't grief. Sometimes you're going to have a PvP event that, guess what, if you suck at PvP, you're not going to be able to take part in. And everybody just needs to have that understanding.
Your statement is there. Sometimes you have a PvE event that you can't grief in, right? Start of that word was sometimes. At what point do you differentiate to say, all right, we can have PvP in this event, but not this event? Like, the Atmo esports stuff, right?
Maybe it's the system.
Maybe it's the system. But, like, again, I feel like it gets into Imagine territory, right? It's like, oh, well, imagine if this is happened. Like, I think people are still thinking this is a fully finished game, and a lot of the reactions are based off that.
Of course.
It's still in development. Like, I don't know. It's such a hot topic.
Yeah, I just want people to respect.
Yeah.
The way other people view the game in their mind, and that it's not the only way that you want it to be. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's it.
It can't. Yeah.
It's not just for you. That maybe is more what the title should be. Is that the game is not just for you, or just the way you expect it to be. Is that there might be something that's different.
Dude, I can rent anything.
And it's something that somebody else wants.
Dope.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
That's
and at the
kind
same
of what I'm
time,
trying to
I feel
get
like
at.
a lot of people feel like they've got a lot of ownership. Right?
I love the Warlock,
probably a lot of money into the project. It's like they feel like they should have it their way. It's like you need to remember there are people making this game. They are going to decide how this game functions. Like at the end of the day, you can't just read a comment on Spectrum that gets 200 posts and say, right, well, 200 people have said they want it this, so we're going to change it. Like, you have to have your design sensibilities and stick to them, and then just work around it.
And it seemed like that's what happened, right? When they extended the Comare zone and said, if you're a pirate, if you're a red, you might not get the mission or whatever. I think Elliot posted in chat like what actually happens. I could scroll up and try to find it, but
I think it was like if you accept it and you're unlawful, you get kicked from the mission or something along those lines. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it's past now. There's too many comments, but the idea of that was like clear that they made a design decision and said this is what it's going to be, regardless of the amount of people that were losing their minds with how much fun they were having ruining the event. like quote unquote ruining the event for a certain group. They were having a great time with the event, right? So it's yeah, it's one of those weird things. So you obviously can't please everyone. I understand that, and that's not the intention.
Exactly. Like, imagine if someone like got their org together and was running this event, and then four or five pirates came to attack them, and that org stopped those pirates and then finished the mission. That's such a cool piece of content for them. But then if two people are trying to do this event and they get ganked and they die, they're going to be pissed off and go, well, hang on a minute, this isn't very fair.
Yeah.
And it's like, how you can't please everyone. And I think that's the TLDR version of your question. Is just, why can't it be for everyone? Because it's literally impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah, but often what I keep trying to get at with you is that the title isn't necessarily the question that I'm asking. It's just the title that brings you, that kind of is the overall or loose theme of the show, but that's not really what it's meant to be. It's just more like, why can't we all just get along? Like, why are you
how many friends do you have in real life, Mike?
I don't have any friends in real life.
There you go. You can't people love to argue and they love to give each other shit.
Yeah. So it's but I just think people should be more respectful for the way other people look at the game. Like I've been lucky enough to be able to take part in both sides of things. Like I did the Vandal Mask event, had a great time with that. I haven't really been able to do Xenothreat because it's just been busted or whatever most of the time. Yeah. But the idea of, maybe I want to just move the boxes. That's part of the game design. I should be able to possibly do it.
Yeah. My concern, I guess, is if you start to limit the PvP engagement, it kind of removes one of the aspects that's beautiful about Star Citizen, right? Is the openness of it and the way how everyone can interact with everyone. And I know it pisses some people off, but it's also really cool. Like, when you go to take down a comm array and then someone else gets the mission to say, hey, this comm array is getting hacked, let's go take them down. Like, those counter missions, they're so good and so enjoyable. It's such a great type of design that if we start just saying, I want this to just be PvE, at what point does it just become another MMO with PvP content and then a PvP area that's locked off? And then it's not really Star Citizen, right?
So should you be able to do that in, like, Terra? I mean, that's...
I don't know, man.
Right?
Isn't Terra like the planet?
The system.
The system.
Maybe more around the planet.
I personally think you should be able to do it everywhere, and the systems of the game should handle it. I'm all for the openness of it. I love it. I think it's like... I'd love to just be like, oh, you're in Port Olisar? Boom, you're dead. I've shot you. But then, when I shoot you, 7 AI come out of a monster closet and take me down and I'm in prison.
Yeah.
There's my repercussion. Yeah. Like, why have a prison system if you're not going to let people be villains, essentially?
I think it should, and I think you're right on how I'm feeling, is one of the biggest problems is Star Citizen's just broken, right? So they're starting to put that aspect in around the stations, right? Where if you shoot, you're going to get a warning. If you keep shooting, there's going to be a security response. And the security response should be insane and should be able to be insane in a place like Terra, right? So for sure. I think, and that's what you're saying, right? But in this case, like, maybe you should be able to shoot anybody. Like, I still think the game should recognize if you are weapons hot or not, rather than targeting a player or not. So for me, maybe if you have your weapons on and you're in these like super safe areas, it's like, yo, turn your weapons off, dude. Because it's like literally like holding a gun and pointing it at somebody at that point. Like, hey, weapons need to be off here.
Yeah.
So,
no, I don't know. I love the aspect of the idea of just being able to do whatever you want in the game. And
sure.
I just feel like if we start limiting it, it's not going to be Star Citizen anymore.
Sure. But would you...
And I really want it to be Star Citizen.
I agree. I'm with you on that, actually, and you kind of shifted me more back in that direction a little bit. But for something like...
it's just another space MMO that you can easily transition between planets on.
Yeah, or it's just another MMO that's got locked off content on both sides. If you want a PvP, over here. If you want a PvE, over here. And that's it. You want them to intersect at least a lot more often than other games. But let's jump back to the Terror just for 1 second. Because again, like, this is what you did and do for a living, and I don't, so I like to just pick your brain. Is a place that's super in the core systems of the area that should be more safe, like a place where, like, I don't know, I never played WoW, but a place in Ultima Online was like the last like major MMO that I played really seriously, was like Britain Bank, where you just stood there and you were like, hey, I'm selling this, you want to buy my dragon or whatever, right? So it was just like, you never looked over your shoulder and thought you were gonna get shot in the head.
Yep. Reminds me of RuneScape, where you just stand in the bank, go, hey, I'm selling
spamming.
black G trims, anyone want to buy? And no one can come and backstab you and take that black G trim from you.
Exactly.
And I think, like, hypothetically, it would be, as you mentioned, a system like Terra.
Yeah.
When you go there, as you go towards a planet, and I'm theory crafting here, and I'm in Imagine mode, it's like you enter the atmosphere, and the ATC is like, hey, you can't land until you disable your weapons.
Okay, cool. So
and
we
as
are
you're
on the
walking
same
through,
page.
like shipyard or whatever, if you draw your weapon, every security guard is like, wait, what are you doing? Put your weapon away.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Snaps, and they do you know, they are working on non-lethal weapons, so they don't have to kill you.
Exactly.
They could just be like,
tase you and send you to prison for just pulling your weapon out, essentially.
Exactly. So they are places that are safe, but if you're maybe a god, you can kill those guys and cause a little bit of trouble before you eventually get knocked out.
And that's the Star Citizen point, right? Then it becomes if you go in there and pull your weapon out, all the security guards come for you. But if 50 pirates roll in, they can take that port hostage and you can't land there anymore. That's what makes Star Citizen so cool and unique. And if you remove that, it isn't Star Citizen anymore, in my opinion.
Hey, Jerry, you can't bring 50 because there's only 40 on a server.
Oh,
sorry, man.
well.
All right, we're going to...
Anyway, I think I've rambled on. Sorry for yapping, but I feel like I love talking about this stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I think I made my points. And I think we agreed on a lot of stuff. Maybe still disagree, but I'm sure ASN will prove me wrong on all of this now.
Yeah, we'll see. So we'll bring him on and see what he has to say. Another game developer, so it's pretty cool to have you guys on and hear your perspective, because a lot of the times we as backers sit there and go, this should be so easy, or this is how it should be. But you guys are literally educated or conditioned to see way more points of view and all the little...
I'm pro keeping Star Citizen the unique, cool experience it is, and not just divulging it back into that. But yeah.
Before I let you go, what do you think of New World switching from that open world PvP to whatever it is now?
Oh, dude, I didn't even manage to play New World because I didn't get into it. But maybe that's a conversation for next time. Who knows? Maybe I'll be back on.
Because that seemed like that was what happened. They were like, oof, maybe this is a mistake. PvP all the time?
Well,
and that was their solution.
Me and ASN had a good chat about Crunch as well. ASN's a very clued up guy, so you're all in for a treat.
All right, sweet. All right, Jerry, we'll let you go, man. Have a good one. Thank you so much for coming on.
Cheers, mate.
Love you, dude.
Take it easy, dude.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, before we go to ASN, I did switch. But before we go to ASN, I know that there are some tweets. So let's see if there is anything we want to discuss there from guys who do not have a mic or do not come on the show. Most likely they don't have a mic because they spend too much money on Star Citizen. But that's just my guess. Oh my god, it's gonna make me log in. Okay, hold on. So we're going to not do Twitter right now, and I'm gonna log in and do this in a second. ASN, welcome, dude. I have to sign into Twitter. So,
hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. All these nerdy game devs, man. Jeez.
Right?
What are we gonna do?
I don't know.
Cool. Ugh.
So what do you think about this? And again, it's more the mentality than the actual game design is what I'm touching on. But you are obviously more than welcome to address the game design aspects of it.
Like, when you say mentality, though, how does that mentality like reflect onto the game? Like, is that the topic? Because like mentality eventually turns into something, right? Otherwise, it's just people saying stuff.
I think what I mean by mentality is when there was the Vandal Mask event, which you were pretty much like really trying to hammer out your game at that time, so I don't even know if you're aware of it, where you had to kill 50 unique players, 50 different players with a certain ship, and they had to be actual people, not NPCs. 50 different ones, and it basically caused everybody to just smell blood in the water and just go nuts and kill everybody they saw, which was wild, right? So, and then people were calling everybody griefers. And then what I said and many other PvPers said was that not everything in this game is meant to be a PvE experience. Sometimes the game is going to have a PvP experience, and you need to understand that. But then the same players, when it came to this thing, which was, this PvE created, crafted event, was that, oh, this is an open world PvP game. So it was more of sometimes there's PvE content and sometimes there's PvP content. It's not always intersecting perfectly. Sometimes it isn't. And those players were saying the exact same thing, but the opposite. And it was like totally, there was so much hypocrisy, and it was just, like, I was like, wait, you're the same people that said this. This made no sense. So that's when I was like, I need to talk about this and see what other people think, because I don't like that way of thinking, or that attitude of this is for me and not for you, when this game is for everybody.
Yeah, I do understand. Like, there's always that battle in these MMO games of the player style and like which part of the community wants what, how much of a majority, or how loud are they. They kind of influence a lot of the discord in this situation. And I would say, like, even in that event, technically speaking, we have local security right on stations and stuff like that.
Sure.
So
They
you
just don't
could
work
kind of
well.
Stay in haven for a while and stuff like that. I think in general it's nice to have those events, but there needs to be certain ways to give players a way to escape and kind of like hide. Like, there needs to be more things around it so people can actually disguise themselves better, maybe. I don't know the full details of the mechanics of the event, but I mean, if the server went to a full-on like battle royale mode with like everybody being visible on their radar and stuff like that, that's something else. But like, if you could actually hide it and like stay away or like stay stealthy for let's say a week in game, just for this event duration, I think that adds a little bit of spice. But I think the other issue, as you mentioned, is like there's a lack of like low sec or null sec areas in Star Citizen in general, system wise. Like, that's why Pyro, as said, will be a big point to satisfy that player base, like that part of the player base. But it's really tough because, like, I think the game Star Citizen itself is a very let's try to do most, if not everything, type of game. Like, that is why it can appeal to so many different people, but that is also exactly why it has struggled in advancing in several areas of the game.
Sure.
Because there is so much width into what needs to be developed. And I think, like, you have that, PvE experiences, like mining and all that stuff. And mining is really good, but there needs to be other elements which also need to be equally developed. And PvP as well, which needs to be equally developed. So all these like different parts of the player base are like not equally satisfied. And that also leads to a lot of the mentality of the backlash, because certain parts of the player base is more satisfied with features and content than the others. So something that happens that upsets them will make them speak louder against it because they're not as satisfied, or vice versa. So there are all these like community things that are going on as well.
Yeah.
Overall, as a game, I think that SC is really good on the realism aspect because it has that first-person verse. It's wide and very realistic. Design-wise, that's what appeals to me, really. And it is something that keeps a lot of the more let me hop in and have some fun type of people away from the game.
Yeah.
And that's more my, like, it appeals to my style, which is like, take your time, go do stuff, bit of realism. And that is automatically a bar for a game
Mhm.
because you can't just hop in a match and just like start blasting. I mean, they also want to appeal to those players with the smaller arenas, but like we know how that's going.
Yeah. There's just not enough time
And
to do it all.
yeah, so basically that's the kind of that's
Don't
the
get
kind of
the
like
theaters
my,
of war
my thought about it.
frogs. The theaters of war frogs in chat are gonna start freaking out.
Yeah.
Where's my
It-
theaters of war?
Yeah, it is like an idea to appeal to everyone is kind of appealing to no one.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of like, okay, it doesn't have to be very laser focused, right? Like if you go very
No.
laser focused, then you're way too like you're way too niche,
Yep.
which is like a downside. Which is, I mean, can be a plus side, depends on what your target group is. But like with Star Citizen, the advantage is it can appeal to so many, but you still need to kind of get an idea, like, or maybe find a way to make all these people satisfied, which is so difficult to do.
Yeah.
Larger groups of different types of players that need to be satisfied means more work needs to be done to satisfy different groups of players, which is quite complex. And
Sure.
I think that's what's happening right now in the alpha.
Yeah, I mean, I think this event proves that more than anything was, and especially your PvP players are just thirsty for something, and I think that's kind of what Jerry was saying. It was just like, I mean, these guys never get anything. You know, they had the mask event, but then it was totally cheese, so it took the value of the mask event away, and then this, where it was like they were kind of left out of, and it feels kind of left out of, I should say, but there's no like win condition for them necessarily, other than just watching the world burn. But the idea of what you're saying, trying to appeal to everyone, is yeah, it makes it so hard. And I think that this really shows that. Is they're like, all right, we're gonna make this mission, it's gonna be all PvE, and then the PvPers are like, what about me? Like, I'm crying over here for something, man. You know, it's tough. It's
But
tough.
there is no end goal to PvP. So okay, just a basic example.
Okay.
Imagine. Imagine. So in EVE Online, when you PvP in certain areas, you're PvPing for faction war, you're PvPing for territory control, you're PvPing for trade lanes. You're PvPing. There's a bigger goal. Like, they're only a small part of really scummy people are just out there to PvP just for fun, which which is also fine. But then again, the world is set in a way where in certain areas it's a pass, in certain areas you get immediate response, and like that is the point of the whole thing. It gives the players who want danger areas to go to have danger in, and it gives other people the idea that, oh, what is the point of killing someone? The point of killing someone could be loot. The point of killing someone could be disrupting something in their org. Like, there's so many reasons. Like, you can take inspiration for from any real life, like even historical war or event or whatever. Like, there are reasons. People rarely kill just to kill. Like, there is, of course, that is also possible, but like, it's a rare thing. And in games, it should also be a rare thing. But if there are no other things to back these PvP players up, obviously they will go and do the only thing they can do, which is just kill and get some money. Okay, like, you know, and for the person who's on the receiving end, so just like going around with their like, you know, weak default outfitted ship, that's a bad experience, because like, why did I just get ranked? Like, I just literally did nothing. I'm not part of something, you know, I'm just strolling around here or whatever.
Yeah, it's I don't envy them, that's for sure. I don't envy the situation that they're in, but I just expect, as Star Citizen grows, for those players looking for certain types of content are going to know where to go to get it. And I think that maybe is what should happen, but then the more I talk to Jerry, the less I feel that way. It should just be incredibly difficult if you're going to try to break up something in a more safe area, I guess.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, like the risk versus reward.
Yeah.
How much am I putting in? How much am I getting back? If that doesn't exist, like, what's the point on what's the point of everything? Like, you know, you have Stanton, which is supposed to have these big corporations and a lot of security, has security gaps in between, but that was the point of Stanton, to kind of deliver this like inconsistency of society, to kind of deliver this inconsistency of law and order, so Star Citizen can experiment with these moments of piracy, with these moments of, you know, a lot of trade, and those things conflicting with each other.
Wow.
But right now, it really feels very like equal until you get to Grimhex, or until you get to like one other spot. But like anything in between doesn't really feel like there's like that, you know, like you don't feel like I need to go to the station because it's safe there. Like it rarely happens. Whenever you're in PvP, you're like, okay, I just need to jump there. But you're not thinking overall, okay, let me go from this station to this station because that lane is more safer, so I can carry my goods more safely. It's a less chance of being intercepted or whatever, you know.
Yep, and that's something that they seem to intend to want to have be there with interdiction ships and all this, but just not a system that's in place yet.
Yeah, and player density is also the other issue. There's not enough
That's for
players
sure.
per area, I think.
That's for sure.
Like you have an interdictor ship, but like
how
if
do you
see
interdict
somebody go by once an hour, you know, or like
once a week? Yeah. If you're in a certain place, certain places, it's very not often, you know. But yeah. So all right,
so
man.
Definitely, yeah. Those are my thoughts on that.
I appreciate it. Appreciate your
yeah.
thoughts. I'm glad you came on.
Glad to be here. Hope you're doing well. Hope everything's going good.
So far, so good. How about you? Everything good? How's the Scissorane going?
Oh yeah, we're going great. We're working on a big patch, and
oh no, you're breaking up.
Features, cool new content addition.
You broke up just as you were
hello?
saying everything. Yeah, I hear you now. Go ahead. Just you said working on a new patch, and then that's the last thing I heard.
We're working on a new patch, patch with new features and content and art and all that stuff.
Okay. Awesome. Exciting. Exciting.
Yeah, we're really focused on that stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, I'll take off now.
All
Have
right,
a good one.
Asen.
Stay healthy, Mike.
You too. You too, buddy. I appreciate it. Be good. All right, our next caller is Fall Line, but before we get to him, we are gonna take a look at a tweet. This tweet is from Rainwalker, and he said, "Salty Mike, Tony Z said there should be something for everyone. The salvage part is for PvPers, the Idris part is for the PvPers. But the PvPers won't stop at one stage, they want it all. The Vandal Mask was all PvE, all PvP, no PvE. I think the mixed events don't work. Separate events is the answer." I mean, you can have a mixed event if you maybe separate it a little bit, but what I'm looking for more, when I was looking at this event specifically, was looking for like an end. Everything could have been jumped by PvPers, but when you killed them, there needs to be a system in place like prison, which is why I think it was good that the thing was spread to the when I say the thing, the comm array was spread out to the wreck, because when you kill
Interstation
PvPer,
transit.
you need to make it so it takes time for them to get back and engage.
There's
in the
Easy
fight
Hab
again,
out here?
because the actual delivery of the boxes took time.
Okay.
Right. So the whole thing was that
Okay.
it just needed a little bit of a design change to make the fight end when it ends. Because if people are just constantly trickling in and constantly PvPing in the situation where the fight was kind of over, the PvPers lost, the PvEers won in that situation, then okay, now we can
Go to the Karma Center! I've never been here.
We're
Did not
good.
know that existed.
For this scenario, but for some other things, like what if there's I don't know, a mining mission or something like that, I'm kind of the same ilk in the sense that, like, that place that you're delivering the ore, or the place that you're actually mining the ore, could get jumped.
Processing.
But it's tough because a ship like a Prospector dies in 2 seconds. So it's the situation where it's a lot of game design and issues where how does a miner play in that scenario? where one missile and they're dead, a couple shots from certain weapons and they're dead. So it's this scenario where you do have to try to please everybody if there's two sides to the scenario. So you got to make it challenging for the PvPer, but you have to make it possible for the PvEer to enjoy. So it's tough. So the loop breaks, like I'm saying in
Rentals?
Twitch chat, the loop breaks because there's
For
no
cargo?
end to the PvP at the wreck. And that's why I think those things have to go in. But all right, let's move on to our next caller. Our next caller is Fall Line. Fall Line, welcome to the show. Can you hear me, bud?
We're sorry. You exceeded the allotted time to
I
depart.
know you were waiting for a
We'll
while.
have to
Do you hear
return
me?
your ship to storage.
I do. Let me pause the stream so that I'm not hearing echoes.
All right,
All right,
no
there
problem.
we go.
Initiating ship storage procedure.
I hear you. So what do you think about the topic? You've been typing in chat as well, I think. So.
Yeah, and I try not to pick fights, but sometimes I don't succeed. But overall, I think, you know, I have thoughts on the general topic, but specific to the title of the ATC, I think the answer to why we can't all just sort of get along is, you've touched on it a few times, but I think it really is the crux of the issue, is we need to remember that this is not a finished game.
Yeah.
And that a lot of these problems are problems because of issues with servers, issues with population, and issues with like missing technology and gameplay loops.
Dope.
And I think for like take this, obviously the catalyst for this is the Xenothreat event, which, you know, to my mind, I look at that, I say this is clearly a combat event, whether it's PvE or PvE. You should go into it expecting some risk. There are terrorists attacking. So ideally, you would go to those wrecks and move your stuff around. You would already want escorts because you should expect the Xenothreat folks to be showing up, and they do, but only a little bit. So they're not really that much of a threat. So in this case, if they were more of a threat, if there were more of them, you might be prepared for those PvPers when they show up.
Sure. In the end, the NPCs just have never really been a threat yet.
Right.
Because AI, servers, everything you mentioned, right?
Exactly. So we get, and I want to put this out there, I play mostly PvE because most of the game, like you said, that is available is PvE content.
Sure.
So, you know, if I get it, and I played that event from the side, you know, on the side of the Angels, and I personally enjoyed it when I had PvPers come up because it was like, okay, here's a threat that doesn't die immediately.
Sure.
But I understand not everybody wants to do that, which is why an event like this, you should have some sort of a division of labor, and that is where, of course, server populations come in. So there, we have to remember that these events are occurring in a test environment, which even live, right, we have to remember is a test environment. So yeah, we just have to treat it like it's not a finished game. And in the end, I'm sure there will be plenty of missions for people who don't want to have to worry about getting ganked. Even if the possibility is still there, like you said, the size of the universe may keep that probability low.
Yeah.
Improving, you know, high sec type mechanics, keep that probability low. I'm definitely on board with, I think it was Jerry was saying, I don't ever want that risk to go away, because when I'm doing PvE stuff, it's exponentially more fun because of the risk that I might get ganked, and I don't want that risk to always come from a 30k.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where I net out on that. We all just need to remember that the game's not done yet, and PvPers aren't necessarily trying to grief. If they're doing bad manners and ramming people on pads, you can make the argument that that's different. I think
that's
it is.
griefing. Killing other players for the sake of killing is PKing. That's different.
Yeah.
It's PKing. It is an aspect of every MMO I've played.
Go ahead.
I just said PKing is an aspect of every MMO with PvP that I've played. Like, killing a player for the sake of killing him. Maybe you loot him, maybe you don't. You know? It's just, it's not... The benefit is not an in-game benefit. It is a ego or feels good to outwit that person in that fight, whatever. But there is a benefit to just absolutely always killing and that's what you want to do.
Gotta get those entries on Zkill, man. But yeah, and I like that risk always existing. But griefing is a real thing, and I think we can design things to make that less likely, right? So like in the Xenothreat event, if you were to ram one of the cargo ships that people are trying to put boxes in, such that they can't actually reach it anymore, that kind of sucks. That sort of does mess up the gameplay loop in a way that just killing people doesn't, in my opinion. That becomes less likely if you have escorts, or if you're forced to have escorts because Xenothreat themselves are more of a risk. So again, these are all of this stems from the fact that the game's not done yet. And we just have to remember that and not be shitheads to each other.
Yeah. And yeah, we just need to respect, like, I mean, again, that's the whole theme is that you need to respect what people want to do in the game, and the understanding that Star Citizen is trying to catch all more than most, and you can't.
Platinum Bay, alright, that's got like ship parts.
Your vision for the game on anybody else. It's
A
just
beacon?
not fair. And if you do, and that's what ends up happening with this game, you're just
What
gonna
does a
be playing by
beacon do?
yourself,
Why is
whether
that
you're
my
a
only option to
PvEer or
buy?
a PvPer. It goes on both ends of the spectrum. If you're
A
trying to
vapor
force
block.
PvP out and like force in a PvP
What?
slider or something like that, there's not going to be any PvPers in this game.
Hey.
And if you
A web.
if you do it on the opposite end,
Web,
where
that must be a
PvPers
shield?
are saying, well, this
Maybe
is
an
an open world
EMP?
game, I can kill anybody anywhere and do whatever I want, then you're not going to have anybody to kill.
Yep.
And if you do have anybody to kill, it's going to get really boring. And if you're just killing miners at Port Olisar or whatever,
Oh, it's a quantum
eventually
drive.
You're going to switch games.
Beacon
I don't know how
is.
long you can do that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I do want to say
System.
that I don't
Power,
like the
shield
idea of
generator.
completely,
I think shield generator will be
separating
web.
out those
Yeah.
gameplay loops into different systems, for example.
Cooler will be the
I like
vapor
sort of
thing that we
Eve-style
saw.
Yeah.
security, although I might make it a little less
Vapor
potent,
block,
right?
yep.
Because
Oh, it's a grade 2.
I've spent when I first got into Eve, I spent a lot of time in HiSec just doing PvE ratting missions, and I got bored. And I get that not everybody will, but
Okay,
I
cool.
like the universe to feel a little bit more like one big thing, because when you think about Eve, like HiSec PvEers and like nullsec or lowsec
Oh, yes,
PvPers,
Kasaba.
like, very rarely
Where's the
actually
Kasaba?
interact, and I don't want to see that for Star Citizen.
Yeah.
But I think there's a balance to be struck there, and I think that the mechanics that they have
I'll
said
do it
are
level
going
by
to be in the
level.
game are good ways of doing that. I think we all just need to remember that we're playing an alpha, and
Oh,
enjoy the
arcade
content that we
games.
have while we wait for it to be done.
Please, Star Citizen,
Sadly.
license a bunch
Sadly,
of
but
old
true.
classic arcade
Sad
games
reality, but that's
for
what
us
it
to
is.
play in here.
Let me ask you, how long have you been backing Star Citizen for?
I want to say I bought my
Welcome
first
to
game
the
package in
store.
like 2015.
Alright.
Okay, so you've been around a while. I thought maybe you were like a year old, and that's where you had that mentality from. So most people
No,
are just
so-
getting bored and are ready for some
Yeah.
substance.
Yeah, I mean, so for a long time, like I backed for the first time in 2015, and I played on a laptop, and I could barely, like, the hanger module ran at like 2 frames per second, so I just like didn't do that. But since then, once I got a good computer, I'll hop in. For a long time, I would just hop in for maybe a week or two every major patch, get bored, and then set it aside and come back when there was more stuff to do. The last couple of patches, I have been playing a lot more. Because there's a lot more to enjoy, a lot more to do.
Yeah.
It just keeps getting better as long as we're not being dicks to each other.
This is true. This is true. But all right, do you have anything else you want to add before we move on?
Just that, I definitely feel like I had some big shoes to fill coming on after a couple of really knowledgeable folks, and I just want to say you got a great show going with getting people like them on the line. So thanks for putting it all together.
I appreciate it, man, and you did great, and yeah, I really appreciate your call, and I'm glad you decided to come on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, buddy. Be good.
Bye.
Bye. All right, before we go to our final caller for the day, we have quite a few tweets to get through, so let's get through them. We have from Ramboos, who said, Gray Keck, I just
armor.
realized this game is not going to fulfill
20%
everyone's personal vision of what they think it will be.
damage
That would be
reduction.
impossible. There'll be some things in Star Citizen game design that will take
40%
people out of their comfort
damage
zone.
reduction.
That's a good thing. I think that
That's 20.
I don't know
So
like
these
why that's in
mediums down
quotations,
here.
and then why.
That's the change. Should be 30. Which is this.
Very
one.
nice.
It's a 30%.
Very nice. So
10K something. 8K,
yeah, the idea of that and taking
That's-
people out of their comfort zones,
okay.
I think that's a good thing. But
Alright.
should people be out of their comfort zone
And then
all
these
the time?
go back to 20. So this is
Right?
another light
Is
armor.
is what I
That's
kind of
different.
have issue with. Is that's not necessarily the game that I would enjoy or want to play
So it
or
depends
anything
on what
like
you
that.
like. You
And,
like that
um,
look?
You know, maybe King touches on that a little bit more when
do
he
you
comes
like
in. But
This look.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I feel. Is I don't want to have anxiety all the time, but I want to be able to make the
Whoa.
choice and go.
Okay, this one has
I
carry
need
capacity
this
of
thing,
4K,
or I
32
want
to
this thing,
62, 20%,
and
plus
I need to go to a
911.
dangerous place to get it, because that is a lot of what Star Citizen is developing as well here in more recent times.
This will
I'm
cost
noticing,
1,700.
is the idea
The
that
carrying capacity is 9K SP. So you
make
carry a lot
choices
more.
and you plan.
But it's twice as expensive. And the temperature
And
rating is 5 degrees each way, or whatever
the
it was. 6 degrees each way.
Plans
something
and
like
choices
that.
that you make are based on what
I
you expect to experience.
think
Sometimes
I'm
you might
going to
expect
go
something
for the
different,
first
right?
one.
But for example, like going down and mining on
I'm gonna
Aberdeen
buy
or
this
something like that, you know, you got to bring your hot suit on, and the idea of saying, all right, I'm going to that risky area. Let me make sure I have my best shields, my best weapons. I'm geared up.
Done.
I have food because I might be
I think you're
stuck
going to
out
be
there.
happy
I might
with
have I have oxygen, and I have a way to communicate or whatever, right? Like
Utility, gadget,
imagine
med
whatever
pen.
you'd like.
Ah, here we
But
go.
the idea of making that choice is something that I think is pretty important. We have another tweet from Rainwalker, who said, if CIG want a PvE event, they should remove any choke point in the collecting area and delivering area, like a mining event of aluminum from anywhere and delivering to a refinery. This way they can guarantee no PvP is going to happen except by chance. I disagree with that. I really do. I think, you know, going back to the Fall Line's call is they don't
Nice
have to
choice.
remove the choke. They need to make it really difficult for the people fighting, right? They have to fight off security. The whole idea of this event and what they're saying is they don't have enough
So
people
now-
to help with Xeno threat, but that doesn't mean
I
that
can
they don't
go
have
to my armor.
nobody, right? So they have some people that can help. Some of the people are NPC
My
security or
torso.
UEE people,
put on
and
that.
some of them are
Yeah,
not.
cool.
And that's kind of the idea for me, is that it should be a little bit more difficult than not. All right, I think we have one more tweet here that I will bring up, and this one is from Aimless. And Aimless said, Star Citizen aims for death with consequences. That means killing players will also have consequences. There can't be the quick turnaround combat we have now unless it is via in-game simulation. Ultimately, this will disappoint some people. It's true. It's true, and that goes on both sides. If the PvPers or the PKers end up winning at the rec site in this match, in this server, let's say, that the PvEers should not be able to come back that easily either, right? It should be that situation that I just mentioned, or it's like, all right, we got to gear up again, and that's going to take some time. And if the PvPers or PKers decide that they want to move the goods and sell them, and they're more on the piracy end of things, then they can do that, right? So it's one of those things where Star Citizen, in a way, it can be for everybody if we just understand the other person's point of view. So with that said, let's move on to our final caller, King Gear. King, welcome to the show, man. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I am good. So what do you think about all this? I know you're the last caller, so there's a lot of people that kind of came on the show and said their piece. Is there anything you want to respond to or add to?
I mean, not really. I mean, everything that I really wanted to say has been said already.
Okay.
I'll just kind of, you know, go back to the main question that you have on screen. Why can't Star Citizen?
Yeah.
You know, it's a.
Let's look at the arms.
A
See if I
really
made a
hard
mistake
thing
buying what
to
I
kind of
bought.
nail for CIG, because you have so many different types of people that want to play the game in their own way,
Mhm.
don't want to be bothered, but they're unable to because
See,
I'm not
I don't like
you know,
that.
say the reason for that is PvP, but people that want to ruin the
Flex
experience. for
arms.
others.
That's what I have
Yeah,
on
sure.
now.
Sure.
EVE Online is the greatest example, right? I played EVE maybe about 2 weeks ago. Just got back into it, you know, after like a 6-month break or whatever. And the corporation that I'm in, they're moving all their capital ships, all their industrial ships, all the stations to another space to help out with the war that was going on, a big war. And I, you know, was bringing my stuff from nullsec, you know, 0.0 and below space, the security, all the way up to high sec. In high sec, you know, the higher you go, the faster the response is for security. I was bringing my ship in it, and there was a bunch of gankers on a gate. While I was trying to warp to another gate, and I lost about 7.3 billion ISK of items that I had. That just made me quit. So you really can't, you know, there's a fine line, really, of Star Citizen being for everybody, Star Citizen not being for everybody. Because there's going to be points in the game where you just want to rage quit, you want to bash your monitor like how Summit did, or how you even, you know, smash your desk sometimes. You know?
Yeah. Nobody likes losing. I mean, that is the like that clip with Chris is such a good example of how difficult it is to make a game and to keep everybody happy. It's impossible. But his mentality of there's gonna be stuff for PvPers to do, there's gonna be stuff for PvEers to do.
He's up in the middle of something.
I hope he delivers. I hope that there's choice. There's a little bit more choice in the matter where instead of PvP just being so easy to do everywhere as it is now. I think that goes back to the point with what everyone's saying is where, you know, the game's not finished. It's just too easy now.
That's it. You know, right now we're at a sensitive stage where, yeah, I still feel like CIG is trying to figure out what they actually want to do with Star Citizen and the whole Squadron 42 side of it. Kind of, you know, they're bashing their heads against each other because they want to release Squadron 42.
Yep.
But they also want to release content for Star Citizens. Like, okay, what do we prioritize? But it's true. You know, I hope everyone that has backed the game secretly, no matter how much they hate the game, they want the game to succeed. They want to just laugh in everybody's faces that, you know, try to deny the game.
Yeah.
All that good stuff.
Yeah. And it's going to take a lot of work to get it there. And it's going to be hard. And it's going to take a long time.
Sure.
Yeah. Hopefully we have the patience for it. Yeah. All right, King.
All right, brother.
You be good, bud. Thanks for your call. Appreciate it.
You too. Kiss.
See you later. All right, guys. That's going to do it for this week's ATC. We ended pretty early. We started pretty early. About an hour and 20 minutes. It wasn't the 4-hour show that we had last week, basically, with Captain Burks. Hopefully this one will be up, have all the sound and everything. I apologize for last week. What a mess. What an absolute mess that was last week. So my apologies. Looking forward to getting a weekend review up this week and just playing more Star Citizen with Xenothreat, hopefully starting to really come along. So, yeah. Let me know your comments down below. Should Star Citizen be with everyone? I think there were some differing opinions, especially in the tweets from the...
Definitely split the money.
The whole... Yeah, with everything, I don't know. So, it's just the idea of... For me, I try to respect everybody's opinions as much as I can. That is a big thing here in this community, that this little niche community that we have here on Twitch and maybe a little bit on YouTube, is I try to respect everyone's comments. I try to respect everyone's opinions on Twitch, and it's hard sometimes. I really try to see people's point of view, and that's where the show came out of. I started almost every week. I start with one thought process about how it should be, and I really felt that things should be more separate. And then you hear what Jerry says and what makes Star Citizen so great for him. And then you go, oh, you know, and you start thinking otherwise. And that's kind of how I feel about it now, is, yeah, you should be able to engage a little bit, but it should be very difficult or something like that. So So everything changes. So remember, respect people in the comments down below. Respect other people's opinions, and always respect that vision of Star Citizen that we heard at the beginning of the show, because that is what that is the game you're playing, and don't twist it. Don't twist it. That is the game you're eventually going to play, and don't try and twist it into whatever your box that you think Star Citizen is. It's not only that box. There's a box outside of that box, and another one outside of it, and another one. And there's other people that are in multiple boxes and all that stuff. So, yeah. Don't stay in your bubble. Burst that bubble, talk to other people, and be great. All right, guys? Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Leave a comment down below, all that stuff, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much, guys. What's up, guys? I'm Salty Mike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for February 1st, 2021. January's over. Hopefully we're out of that planning month, week kind of phase, and it seems that way. We have a jam-packed episode. So if you are new to Week in Review, basically it's where I take all of the official news coming out of Star Citizen and putting it into one video, and then inserting my opinions in here as well. So if you do end up liking the video, make sure you hit the like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel if you are not yet subscribed. Also, I do live stream on twitch.tv/saltymike every day but Monday, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern time. No Monday, so I can get this video out to you. But all right, without further ado, we had a ton of patches this week, so let's jump into patch notes updates. 3.12.1e went to the PTU early in the week. This basically went live right after I got to work on Monday, which is when the last video came out. So it was just, this patch really kind of caused a little bit of a rift in the community. We talked a lot about it on Answer the Call this week, so feel free to check that out if you like. But they extended the monitor zone from just Jericho out to the rec site, and it upset PvPers because they'll go to jail when they die there now. Now 3.12.1f was more nerfing of PvP in the area. If you have a crime stat, you cannot quantum travel to the rec site because you can't take the mission. If you get a crime stat during the time that you've taken the mission, you lose the mission. So again, just kind of making sure that anybody who's trying to take the Xenothreat side doesn't do things that Xenothreat wasn't allowed to do as an NPC, to some extent is what it seems like they're trying to do here. So if you're going to roleplay a Xenothreat, then you kind of have to act the way the devs intended Xenothreat to act, right? PTUG, if you fail the mission, a PvP bounty mission, this is no longer Xenothreat. If you fail a PvP bounty mission or a regular bounty mission by dying to the bounty, you fail the mission and lose rep. So it's pretty cool. They also fixed prison, but this has been an issue forever, so I'll ask you if you see it. Are you able to sell your gems more consistently? Have you seen it fail? Leave feedback below, but there's going to be a feedback thread that actually is linked below, but we'll discuss it a little bit more. 3.12.1h was just a bunch of minor Xenothreat fixes, and same with 3.12.1i, just mostly minor fixes, but one related to the multi-tool not being bugged in prison. This was a problem for a year now, I think, and again, it's said to have been fixed before. It was still broke. So again, confirm or deny this one in the comments below for me, guys. Moving on to roadmap updates, I think this is going to be pretty much the meat of the episode. We got roadmap roundup. I wasn't sure if we were going to have roadmap roundup every week, but I mean, it's not going to be every week. It's every 2 weeks now. I didn't think we were going to have it at all, so it's pretty exciting to see. Also, it's moving from Friday to Wednesday, which is pretty cool. So it kind of evens out the week as far as content goes for Star Citizen. So every week we have every day we kind of have something to look forward to. Monday, the week post of what they're going to do that week. Tuesday, lore. Wednesday, roadmap, so on and so forth. It's pretty good. But the big thing that they did here, and I didn't think that this would have a strong impact. They talked about doing this from the very beginning when they discussed the roadmap changes, was showing tentative updates committed updates and released updates. Things that they're sure they're going to be able to do, things that they're pretty sure, and things that they're not so sure but they're hoping to be able to do. And the way it reads on the roadmap, I think, is great. I think it has a really strong impact. Tentative is gray, and it just means that they're planning and attempting to try to do this, but don't count on it. Committed is blue, and it's planned for the current quarter, but there's a low chance that it will move off, but still a chance. As well as released, which is, well, obviously released. And I think that this reads really well. I think it's very obvious now that this is not something you should get excited about. I still see on Reddit people, posting pictures of gray things going, oh my god, I'm so excited, which is just their problem. But I think that this is something that really helps me with the roadmap. The roadmap's been a source of pain for me for a while. And something like this is like, yeah, if it's gray, I'm not really paying much attention to it. So that's good. They also did a few quality of life updates, like expanding and collapsing all in the progress view, as well as a year view in the progress view instead of just a couple of quarters. You're not going to be able to see part-time jobs as well. They'll be striped, which means some jobs are just part-time work where a team splits their time between multiple tasks, and they'll be striped, so you'll be able to tell which is which. Now let's get into the meat of what we got. We got the rest of the year on the roadmap, as well as some things moved around. So let's start with some of the stuff that's moved around. Hacking.
Oh,
Hacking was in
Pads Year
3.13.
1. This
It
is
is
Hangers
not
Year
going
1.
to make it in, so it's moving to 3.14. Object Push and Pull is back on the roadmap and is in 3.13, as well as the Nova tank is in 3.13 as well. I think that's a big surprise to people. The big one is meshing is not in release view, but work is being done throughout the year, and they said this is a maybe for 2021 prior, so we'll see kind of as things go how this will progress in the future. Now, legacy data management, which we saw on the roadmap, some people thought that was iCache. It was confirmed that it wasn't, is being taken off the roadmap, and it's actually being moved into the work that's being done for meshing, since they're so kind of connected to each other. And
figured it out.
It's work is going to be done for iCache and meshing throughout the year. We might see results of that in the patches that arise, but I don't think we're necessarily seeing on the release view part of the roadmap, okay, this is full persistence time or this is server meshing time, because they're not sure where it's going to be yet, and they're not committing to anything there. So this could be a decent year, or this could be a really rough year depending on how this work goes. I'm thinking it's going to be a pretty tough year, but we'll talk a little bit more about why it may not be. Downstream teams. This is something that they're planning on adding. These are the teams that do LODs on ships, and that's just one example of damage states on ships, stuff like that. So they get a big piece of content and they work it into the game. They're people who make sure it works and all that kind of stuff. So they're only going to be 2 quarters out because their work is dependent on other work. So it's kind of hard to tell what they would be doing a year from now rather than 6 months from now. So the teams that were added, some of these are downstream teams, some of them are not. Planet Tech, Network, Persistence Tech, Graphics, Physics, Dev Tools, Engine, Game Services, and Live Tools. So those are all the teams that have been added to the roadmap this update. So for 3.14 and beyond, since we know basically what's in 3.13 now, they're thinking of adding Crusader and Horizon. I think maybe this is one of the reasons why we saw Delamar leave the Crusader system, to have it replaced by this. Hacking moved from 3.13 to 14, so we're having that in 3.14. NPC healing, which is basically healing tier 0. FPS radar and scanning, which is having the same kind of radar that you have on ships, but on foot. Spawn closets for missions. This is just to be able to spawn NPCs outside of our view and bring them in to our area. Physical inventory. This utilizes iCache work. So while the game may not be 100% persistent because iCache isn't complete, some of the work on iCache clearly seems like it is going to benefit us in the game with something like a physicalized inventory, which is really good. Weapon charge and drain tier 0. We haven't seen this since actually 2.0, where laser weapons would drain and you would put them on a charge station. I don't know if this is actually how they plan on doing it, but note, this is just the back end for it, so we may not see the action, see this in action in 3.14. We also see the Connie Taurus. SDF shields, no more shield holes, hopefully. Here we go. vehicle XML to data core, which we saw move off the roadmap for 3.13 for just general XML to data core. Vehicle module swapping, they're starting out with the Retaliator, which had some modules. So that is really important and really cool because lots of ships are modular. Caterpillar, anybody? Maybe they could start working on Caterpillar modules soon once they get this in. Very, very exciting. 3.15. This should all largely be ignored from this 3.15, 3.16, because all of this is tentative and all of this is going to change or move in some capacity as it always does. We've been here for a very long time. We know this happens. We're prepared for it. The big ones that I see here is just like new outposts. And again, like we said before, these are literally just modular outposts that make more variety in the Star Citizen universe rather than functionality and gameplay for Star Citizen players. Salvage, again, this is just a meme at this point. I was about to curse, I'm not going to. Magazine stripping and refilling. I think this is actually going to be really cool and add to FPS gameplay. 3.16 Horizon V2, which is just add more shops and functionalities. We saw this happen in New Babbage as well when they did that. And lockers and inventory locations where you can store clothing and the like and armor. Just a more tactile way of storing items on shelves and surfaces as well. So that is the roadmap update. Again, most of this stuff is to be taken with a grain of salt. You know, stick to 3.13, stick to maybe a little bit of 3.14, and you won't be too disappointed. Moving on to video updates, we had an ISC this week, but it's still very much a planning week like ISC. We had a logo featurette, which doesn't really add any crazy discussion points, but again, logos in Star Citizen really make Star Citizen feel real. It's a big, big part of that, so feel free to check that feature out. The link will be in the description. The meat of the episode for us on this show is the sprint report. So they showed docking is in Greybox, and they want more views internally and externally, so they're putting, you know, a glass on the roof and the floor and all this stuff. They also showed a space whale statue that is going to be found in Horizon. Again, this is just a statue, not the actual whale. Respawn screens, honestly, this is kind of a nice touch, beats a black screen, but they are just loading screens, right? Which we're not supposed to have in Star Citizen, so I always kind of find that funny because that's what they are, they're loading screens. Star Lifter interior, they focused on the states of the ship in this update, which looks pretty cool. Redeemer 1 screens in Horizon. Again, this is just a statue, not the actual whale. Respawn screens, honestly, this is kind of a nice touch, beats a black screen, but they are just loading screens, right? Which we're not supposed to have in Star Citizen, so I always kind of find that funny because
you have to load your respawn.
Star Lifter interior, they focused on the states of the ship in this update, which looks pretty cool. Redeemer white box interior and exterior, they want to keep that original silhouette, so that is really important.
Optimal nutrition level
we also got
achieved.
The Tumbril tank tonk early look. I still have no idea what we're gonna do with these in the verse, but it's cool, obviously. Maybe just like taking out turrets on the ground. Colonial style homesteads, again, these are just for NPCs, so I'm trying to just keep my hype levels to a minimum when it comes to these, because when you see them, immediately you want them, right? So I don't want them just in the game, I want them for myself, and I think a lot of people are excited for these because of that, so yeah. Just cookie cutter outposts that we have in the game now, and this is to make that less boring, and I think make more sense in terms of the modules that they have there as well. Moving on to SCL, we had an hour with Tony Z this week, so reprioritizing scaling and services was something that happened this year,
like your
and it was
code.
because of a big event that happened in 2020.
But that's like Lorville.
Yeah, let's hear what he has to say about
Lorville.
That last Fleet Week
Let's
event
see.
proved to be so popular that we wound up during probably about twice the number of concurrent users that we actually expected, and so what that did is it caused us to reprioritize some things so that we could get select pieces of that of that functionality out sooner, and many of those things are now operational. And so while there's still definitely plenty more to do, we think that we've got a decent amount of headroom given where we given where we think
These are like
the
repeated
community
over
involvement
and
is going
over
to
and
be
over
for the
and
next
over.
few
There's all sorts of
quarters.
little
And then longer term, we've obviously got some major initiatives still on the horizon. Like server meshing, which is where we're actually looking to distribute the workload across as many servers as is necessary, so we can start to scale up the actual number of players within a given instance or shard of the game.
Now, as bad as Fleet Week felt, it really did push them forward to work on scaling up and hopefully breaking less when the game gets busy in general. So that's really good. They also touch on like the actual discussion point was dynamic event. So what is a dynamic event?
You can think of it as designer-driven short stories that can be layered on top of Quantum's systemic background, and they can be triggered manually or automatically when certain conditions are met. So if the system decides that war is broken out in an area, or we just decide that we want to liven things up a little, then designers and writers can inject a lot of precisely curated content into the game, and the impact of those modifications will then be blended into the simulation.
I love that he mentions designers and writers. The story of Star Citizen is really like yet to be told. So it looks like it will be told through these types of events. This is actually super exciting. Tony also hinted at what the next event might be.
We've got another dynamic event which we're referring to as Nine Tails Lockdown, and it introduces it's not live yet, but we're already well into testing the so-called shop modifiers. We can now have mission logic affect at a global scale.
Pretty sure that was...
And we've resolved all of the coordination between different servers and issues like that. So you can now apply shop modifiers. You can apply probability volume modifiers. You can basically lock down areas of space, inhibit quantum travel within them.
Sounds like the Nine Tails are going to be locking down areas of space around Crusader. This might be pretty fun. What was even better is that the missions seem like they can affect pricing of things in the game world, which is really cool and really important for the game to feel less static. Also, we've heard dynamic missions before. These are dynamic events, and Tony kind of goes in on what the difference is.
And dynamic missions, they kind of split the difference to where they're going to be systemically generated all over the place. You constantly see them. They'll look very much like right now. If you're in an area and there's a high probability of pirates, we actually create a pirate encounter mission, or you create a cargo transport ship mission, or a conflict, or whatever the case may be. What dynamic missions do is basically allow us at a smaller, more localized scale. Now we're not talking about trying to coordinate this across multiple servers or anything like that. It's just that cargo ship that you run into in this area of space. What type of cargo should it have? Should it be copper? Should it be platinum? Should it be aluminum? It probably depends. Logically, it would depend upon, well, is it coming from from an area where it purchased those things, where that stuff is mined, refined, etc., and where is it going to? And so if it's heading one direction, if the cargo transport is going from the refinery to the factory, then you would expect that it's going to be loaded with goods the refinery produces. And if the cargo ship is headed towards the the refinery, then it then it likely has raw ore that needs to be processed, etc. And so the point being, designers
now we got it.
To with the dynamic mission system, they don't need to fill in things like, hey, for this cargo transport mission, what kind of cargo does it have? Should it be beat up, or should it be in pristine condition? Should it have fighter escorts, or should it just be traveling solo?
Personally, this is what I'm more looking forward to be honest. Mission variety rather than the same thing over and over and over again. It's the same type of mission, but the experience could have so many variables that it always feels different, and that is really important for a game that you likely have to grind a little bit in, like this one. Lastly, Tony was asked, can you choose sides in future dynamic events, since we can't in Xenothreat?
Will some of the dynamic events allow us to choose sides if we're more into the outlaw phase? Xenothreat has everybody on one side, right?
But it's not really. I mean, you're encouraged to be on one side, and yet plenty of players are electing to basically, they're not able to ally, with the Xeno threat, but they're certainly not being, friends to, to the local security forces. So yes, we've actually got, some of that stuff, like in the Ninetales lockdown, we're starting to play with some of those concepts to where you can basically work on the side of the guys helping to keep it locked down, or you can basically work on the side of the guys trying to break that blockade and basically, free that area.
So the fact that there isn't a way to officially plug into the other side in Xenothreat isn't indicative of some future design direction. It's just that's not what this one was.
Not at all. In fact, it's actually quite the opposite.
Obviously, the answer is of course. What's cool is this next major event that they're talking about, this Ninetales lockdown thing. You're going to be able to. So PvPers rejoice. You're going to have your event. This one maybe isn't as much for you as you would have hoped, but you're definitely going to have yours, which is Ninetales lockdown. I'm really excited to see what goes on with that, and who knows, maybe I take the pirate side on this one. Moving on to other updates, Tony Z was on Spectrum as well. He clarified a few things, like this community update for... He didn't mention it in the video that it was going to be for Quantum. It was more on the dynamic events thing, but this is a community update for Quantum. It's been a while since we've seen it. It was at CitizenCon 2019. Very excited to see this, but it's a few months out, obviously. They also touched on the way that they're thinking about implementing depletable resources. This was something that's related to iCache that I don't know, based on the way the current game works, how they're going to do it. So the fact that they're thinking about it and planning on making some major changes, they want to make it harder to find and fun and a challenge. And personally, I can't wait for this as a miner, cargo hauler, those kind of things. Should be really fun. We also had a sneak peek. Again, it was the space whale statue mentioned recently, rather than the actual space whale in-game. A subflare preview, which is very aggressive, kind of PvP-like helmets, which look really cool. Prison feedback thread. This is... I mean, Prison's been broken for so long. Let's keep giving them feedback. Let's get this stuff fixed. So when PvP happens, the consequences feel appropriate, rather than Prison's being so broken so they're super inappropriate. Xenothreat cargo phase feedback. This is what likely led to some of the changes that ended up, getting some PvPers upset, but I think making the mission smooth out and be more functional. Lastly, there was a Star Citizen, or excuse me, a Squadron 42 monthly report. I'm not going to touch on it in this video because I want to ask you guys, should I be focusing just on Star Citizen or the Squadron 42 monthly report as well? I kind of cut it out this week because of
which
time,
was supposed to be
the
that
idea
one, so
of
the change.
Squadron 42 not coming anytime soon.
That's after.
They're doing a really good job with roadmap updates, so it kind of touches what Squadron 42 is bringing to Star Citizen already, so I don't know if it is viable to check out on a show like this. Let me know in the comments below. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Comment below on anything we discussed today. If you are new here and are not yet subscribed, feel free to do so. And make sure you check out my live stream, twitch.tv/saltymike. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Again, thank you to all the members as well for supporting me here on this platform. You guys are awesome. And, yeah, thank you so much, guys. Have a great one.
There's a decoy. Okay. That's... Control. All right.
What is going on, guys? Thank you
In 1936, Melvin Johnson realized that the newly adapted Garand rifle might not be ready for what everyone saw as an obvious involvement overseas, again in the second take on the Great War. This was his take on Plan B if the Garand wasn't ready in time. Let's get on down the rabbit hole and get inside this thing and see how it works. Again, we have a bench full of parts. Johnson automatic rifle, model of 1941. Interesting gun. Until I got deep down inside this thing, I had no idea about this gun's history. I could recognize one on sight, but wow. So I've stripped it out here. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the front end. We're going to talk about the back end. And the first thing we're going to talk about is some of the repairs that had to be made to this gun. And I don't have a photograph to verify to you why I believe that the major problem with this gun was twofold. First, I believe it was Parkerized while it was assembled. Oh my God, it's kind of like Cerakoting the gun while it's assembled. Don't do that. So all the clearances were out of it. I doubt it would have worked. Again, I'm not bagging on the company that auctioned it off. That's not their fault. It's nobody's fault. It is what it is. Here we go. But the real issue that got this thing, some of you folks that might have been following my Instagram will realize that I actually put a pillar sleeve in the front end of the stock. If you look, you can actually see, I gotta find it. I did such a good job of hiding it, you can't even find it. Right there, there's a crack. And the stock had split, and when the stock split, when this end grain opened up that way, all the tension on this front screw broke. And when the tension came off that, the gun just beat itself to death. As you can see here in this picture, the entire rear end of it opened up. A previous repair had been destroyed and had kind of blown out. The butt tube was messed up. Someone had tried to pound that out, I think without taking the cross key out. There were all kinds of issues that went on here. So the first thing we did was got inside the head of the stock and put what I call a dog bone across it. If you look here, all this dog bone is a screw. There's no torque on this screw. It's just laid in. Acroglass is applied over it, and then pressure is put across in order to hold the seam shut. When the acroglass sets, this is like putting rebar in concrete, and it ties the front end of the stock together. The previous repair that had been done had been tied together with the screw up inside the stock. I laid the magazine tube down inside of the stock and acroglassed over the top of that to fill all the gaps in. And then when you can see here now, we've sanded all that down. Yes, there's a big knob here, but it beats the heck out of what we had before, which was no support. Now that we got the stock repairs done, the rest of the gun actually becomes easy peasy lemon squeezy. So now we got down to repairing some of the metal that had blown out. Well, the big one was the magazine tube was a bit screwed up. Here, let me get that dialed in for you guys right there. The threads on this magazine tube, as we can see here, let me get a little bit of light on it. There it is. See those threads in there? Those threads, that's 9/16 by 40 threads up inside. 9/16 by 40 threads on this end cap right here. Really, really fine threads. Well, the issue becomes, how do you push this out of the stock? This is a long seam for that wood to grab onto without the benefit of any lubricants for a long time. And if you look at the pencil mark right here, you can see the pencil pointing to how thin the end of this tube is. So trying to put a punch where this pencil's pointing to and beating on it results in the destruction of the end of this tube.
The plate looks so big.
I had to face a good 1/8 of an inch off the end of this. It doesn't really matter, as we'll see later. This nut just sits down in there a little bit further.
Because it's on the other side.
In order to get this tube out of the gun, though, requires a little bit of subterfuge.
Figured
We're just
it
gonna make a
out.
safe plug here. We'll drive this plug down in here, and we're going to pour some safe in here, and we're going to make a nice tight plug to allow us to be able to drive this out.
Dang.
All right, several minutes have elapsed, and I've allowed the Safe to just kind of set up there in the tube. And now we can just kind of knock this entire tube out of the rear end of the gun. Let me go to a smaller punch here. The whole tube will just come right out the rear end, and now we're not beating up any threads. We're not doing anything crazy. Is that still moving, or am I just driving the plug down there? Okay. So as we can see, I've knocked the tube out without destroying any of the threads down this end, without destroying anything in this tube. If you're ever going to take one of these out, I really would wish you would do that. And I'm telling you, the only reason why I took this out is because I wanted to show you guys, don't casually remove this pipe from the back end of this gun. There's really no reason to do it. The beauty of Safe in this system is that all I got to do now is gently warm up this pipe. And most of this stuff should just come running right out the bottom. You see that pop out? And it all just kind of comes running right out, and then there's nothing left, and the rest of it just scoops out. And that's how that's done. On the front of this, one of the major features of this particular gun was the fact that there's a quick disconnect barrel system, and that the weapon functions on a short recoil setup. So there's a projection here that this whole spring actually is free to slide, you see. So the barrel, there's a bearing surface here and a bearing surface here. Let's get a look at that here on the close-up. On the back of the barrel here, there's a bearing surface right there. See it right there? There's one there, and then halfway up the barrel on this set of rings. So you have two sliding bearings. When assembled, this is free to move in and out. So if we there's a notch here on the barrel, there's a projection sticking down right here on the barrel. And if we get this particular projection up behind that, the barrel becomes spring loaded. So the way I figured that out is to just bring it up till it's flush, rotate this in, you'll feel it pop down, and it snaps in. And that spring loads the barrel, and this is the short recoil aspect of this. When the gun goes off, think of this as a 1911 slide, where the slide is actually the bolt and the barrel is the barrel, and the slide and the barrel go aft a slight distance, the barrel links down, the slide unlocks and goes the rest of the way to the rear. We'll cover that later. Theoretically, and I say theoretically, this can be opened with a bullet point. You should be able to press in with a bullet point, and that should drop down and release the barrel. That bullet point actuation system comes in through this access hole right here. There's no screw in it, but there is a spot where you can just stick a bullet point in and kick it out. Let's look at a few latent design features here. I've read in a few places that this whole thing was machined as one tube, and it doesn't appear to be. It looks like there's a set of roller resistance welds done right here. You can see it in the metal. It's impossible. I've tried to make it show up on a camera and it won't. But this looks like a piece of tubing that has been slid over the main receiver group right here. So this was made as one piece. This was rolled and made as another. When Captain Johnson designed this gun, he designed it to be manufactured. He wanted it, he worked with manufacturers and said, how would you make this? And this is how the man was able to set a manufacturing facility up cold in 1941 in 5 months. They went from zero to wide open in 5 months. The whole gun was designed to be manufactured, and more importantly, was designed to be operated by guys out in the field. And I'm gaining respect for this thing by leaps and bounds every minute I look at it. It's got its issues. They didn't spend $20 million in 15 years developing it like they did on the Garand. And eventually, when the Grand finally caught up and got its teething problems over with, it far and away exceeded this thing. But that's not where we are. So the trunnions that actually hold the front pieces of the stock on are run through with cross pins, and they're set. So I don't want to knock those out. We could, but I don't. The barrel retention device is actually, it's not coming out. That's actually a button-headed rivet right there. It's not coming apart. There are limits. There was nothing to be gained, so I didn't do it. Further back, this is the ejector housing. The ejector is just a simple rocking thing. We'll show that when we put it together. Now's not the time to stick it in there. But retention, actually, it wouldn't hurt us to do it right now. We'll just get it in there and get it out of the way. The spring here in the center is actually sticking down into this hole so that you can take this pin, and then there's a retention groove in there. And that pops in, it just snaps in and is retained, and can be either pushed out with a finger point or with a bullet. So that's actually pretty simple, and it just sits there and rocks as the bolt goes by. That's just free to rock in and out. So that's when the bolt's forward, and then as the bolt comes back, it pushes on the rear and it pops it out. And as you'll see, I've already shot this gun a couple of times, and this sucker's not bashful about flinging brass. Rear sight is actually just a great big leaf spring that I had sitting up on top of it. I didn't take it apart. There's some issues here, but it has a simple windage adjustment on it, and then it's graduated in meters. The rear sight's graduated in meters out to 1,000, and I'm told it's quite effective. Let's see here. I'm gonna move it over here, and then there's a groove right there that pinches down on it. So I'm assuming that that's the 500-meter position. That's 300, and then that's a 100-meter position. And from what I had when I shot it, it appears like that actually works pretty well. I want you to bear in mind, I've only put this magazine together like twice. But at the heart of this magazine is a coil spring, a mousetrap spring. This spring is what's going to allow us to wind and unwind this piece right here. This is the follower, which goes through.
I guess I'm done with the stream.
Around the corner. So this winds up on this stud right here.